I think the biggest change now is you're given a little bit more grace on time to learn the work. I mean, 50 years ago, you either hit it running or you were gone the next day.
Warning, explicit content. This material may not be suitable for children. Listener discretion is advised.
Go put some Elko crease, cause you know nothing that you get in this life comes free. You gotta work all day. Gotta pay these bills, ain't no time to waste.
Hello, miners. Hello, Elko, Nevada. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you for joining us today. This is the 40th annual Elko Mine Expo, and we're excited to open this up. First and foremost, got to thank the Elko Convention Center, Visitors Authority, Annette, Kimberly, Raphael up there in the booth. Thank you and your entire team for having us. And then I'd like to give a big shout out to Motor Mission Machine and Radiator. Jimmy and his team.
Yeah.
He brought his entire family up here. Thank you guys for always supporting us, being a part of what we do. He's got April, Melissa, little Jimmy, Dakota, so thank you guys. We're excited to be here today. We're excited to have some conversation. We have an awesome group of individuals that I have the privilege to call my friends. But at the end of the day, we're going to have some cool conversations.
I would wonder if they would say the same, Grover.
That's okay. I like them. With that being said, let's do some introductions real quick, Dean.
All right, we're going to start out with the man in the tie-dye shirt. I know Annette's already kind of introduced, but I'm going to give a little detail around Mr. Vern Goglio. Vern's a highly respected mining industry leader. He's a mining engineer. He's got 51 years in the mining industry. He does currently serve as a senior manager at Cementation, and he's just an all-around great guy. We met Vern years ago, but he's somewhat mentored us and gave us a lot of his mining memorabilia.
And put up with us.
Yes, totally.
Yeah, the reason they call me a senior manager is because they wouldn't put old bastard on my business card.
Perfect. I'm going to talk about Don next. Again, Don's a seasoned mining executive. You've got 25 years in the game. I still look at you, and you got a lot of mine life left in you, man. So, but he's
midway bastard.
Leading mining operations, engineering, project development. He is currently the general manager for Orla Mining South Railroad project. I'm hoping to get that across the line here soon. But he's known for his dedication to people first leadership, strategic vision, and an ability to build those high-performing teams. So thank you for being here, Don.
Yeah, excited to be here.
All right, last but very much not least is Miss Amanda Hilton. She is the president of the Nevada Mining Association. She is a very well-respected leader of the Nevada mining industry. I do want to say thank you for coming on. This is the first time she's been on the show. We've been after her for about 45 years now. Amanda comes to us with more than 20 years of mining experience. She previously served as the first female general manager of the Robinson mine in Ely. So thank you for being here.
I'm looking forward to the conversation. Thank you.
And so if any of you guys listen to us out there, you will know that we're pretty organic. We have a game plan, and then that usually exits the left door. So we're going to shoot from the hip on some of this, but try to stay structured on most. With that said, there's questions. If you guys have questions, we want you guys to be involved in this.
We do have microphones.
Yes, we do.
So
So Kimberly's over there, Annetta's over there. You guys can text it in. If you guys have questions for these guys, please jump in. Let's make this a community event for sure.
I would say the topics of discussion today are past, present, and future of Nevada mining, whatever we can get through within an hour, right?
100%. Well, we'll try to get her going. Vern, I'm going to start with you, mister. You've got 51 years in the industry. You've seen a lot of mining. You've seen a lot of nonsense. I want to know, with a cultural aspect of it, what has evolved over the years that you've seen that's been positive? And then maybe second to that is, what are some things that you've seen that you maybe want to bring back?
Well, there's probably a few things that reach my mind right away. Okay? Obviously, I work for a contracting company right now. One of the things that I think is very positive is contractors are now starting to be viewed as people, as partners. Back when I started in the industry, we were a disposable asset. We really will. An example is my partner was killed on August in 1982, coming off a swing shift, so around midnight. We were expected to be back at work, ready to put our diggers on and go to work at 4 o'clock the next afternoon. So that's a positive change. Okay, I think another one is the industry is really working to get people away from the face and away from the hazards, and putting people in cabbed equipment. You know, thinking about the health of people now. Had several people that I've worked with that died of silicosis because dust was just, that was part of what you dealt with, right? And that's a good thing. But I think maybe one of the biggest things that I've seen taken off right now is we're starting to focus more on, from a safety standpoint, a proactive approach. Okay? So we're not looking at lagging indicators as much as we used to. You know, you look at a lagging indicator, okay, it happened, but what do we do now? Sure. I think a lot of people are starting to focus on things like critical risk management, right? Where we're going out and looking at the things that kill people and then putting things in place to mitigate that. So I think those are three of the things that pop into my mind.
Maybe to continue on with the question, like, how involved were the miners back in the day, and how involved do you think we're getting them now to look for these solutions up front so they're driving it at the face?
I can't say how it is now, but we were not really involved at all. Yeah. I mean, another example, I'm sorry I use myself as an example at times, but my first interview trip coming out of college, I was at Carr Fork, went underground with the superintendent, and we were sinking the shaft there, wandered around the Galloway. He said, the muck bucket comes up. He says, jump on, grab the chains. There was an expectation to do that, and you didn't say no, right? You basically did what people asked. So I don't know that the working people were really involved in making some of the changes. I know for myself, April 1st, 1999 was when I changed. It was a fatality out at Meikle. Jimmy's was there as well. That's when I decided that we had to change the culture of the mining industry, or I had to leave. But I was in a little different position. I was in a manager's role. Sure. So I could affect some of that change. I don't know where, I'm not going to speak for these guys for the present, because I'm not there that much.
Sure. Well, I think it's an important piece of the history to show how much we're growing, you know, because I think it's almost like looking at yourself in the mirror. You don't see the changes over time, but other people do, right? So it gives us an opportunity to reflect and, I guess, let the industry know that each one of us affect the industry in that way. We just got to lead it ourselves first.
And I would say, too, and I'm curious to hear your guys' response. I mean, you've got 20 plus, 25 plus years in the industry. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think success comes from involving those around you, you know, as a leader or, you know, in an organization. One person can't have all the answers. You have to get all of that from the people around you, and that's where you really get the out-of-the-box ideas, you get the best ideas, and you work together to make them happen. And I think by, you know, engaging with everyone around you, you not only, you know, get that buy-in, but you get the best solutions possible. So to me, that's always been a key, is just getting great people around you and getting them to help you solve the problems.
Amanda?
Why do you think I had you working for me?
Well, in my current role with the Nevada Mining Association, I have the opportunity to tour mine sites around the state of Nevada. I think this year already I've been to 7 different mine sites. And it is just fantastic for me to see how every single one of those mine sites puts the safety of the people working at that site as their first priority. Wherever I am, that's what the leadership talks about. And that's what they're proud of, is talking about how they're proactively working to keep our industry safe. So it is going on across the state of Nevada.
That's good, and we can continue to lead that way. Don, you mentioned leadership, and as a strong, I would say I view you as a strong leader. In today's mining world,
I didn't know flattery was a part of this.
a little BS goes a long way, right?
Yeah, he might be asking for a job sooner or later.
What leadership styles today, whether that's communication approaches or team dynamics, are you seeing shape the industry?
You know, when I first started, you know, and you see a lot of leaders that came up because they had a lot of technical skill. And I think, you know, today really great leaders not only have some technical competence, but they bring that people skill with them, and being able to engage with others around them. You know, you've got, you know, modern mining is complex. I mean, you got to interact with not only your workforce, you got to interact with communities, you got to interact with contractors, regulators, investors, all sorts of stakeholders. And so you need to have those leadership styles that allow you to be adaptable, you know, collaborate with different groups, and be able to openly communicate. You know, as we talked a little bit about, you know, changing of team dynamics with regards to safety, you know, really it goes hand in hand with the success of an operation, is really engaging your employees, getting that buy-in, and really driving home that you're working towards that common goal and working together. You know, it's one of the neat things about our office now is, you know, we're small, but when we get our mine permitted, we're going to grow. And so we've been bringing in a lot of good people, and people that are just not focused on just their job. They're willing to go help anyone else out to make things happen. And when you start to get those dynamics happening, you're going to have a successful operation. And so I look forward to us growing, but I think, you know, overall leadership, it's about building that trust. It's about getting out of your office. It's about engaging with everyone, having those meaningful relationships, and really just creating that momentum towards common goals.
I think reflecting a little bit, I mean, just by you making the comment that, you know, Don used to work for you, you know, recognizing those leaders in the industry at an early age or early in their career, and helping mentor, get them to where they want to be, ends up creating the best case scenario for the industry, right? Because being approachable as a manager is important. And, you know, listening to you and how you're building your team, it's people want to work for people like that. And if you're a good worker, you know, you're on time, you do the right things, opportunity presents itself.
I think as well, tagging on to what Don said, is, you know, a good leader will set out a vision, the vision that they have, and that's what they can do. But we're really only successful when the face buys into it, and they're driving that success back to us. When it makes our job so much easier that I call it whiff it. When you can explain what's in it for them, not what's in it for me, then it's a whole lot easier. And once the face is driving it back to us, that's when we become successful.
Well, something that resonated as you guys were talking was, I learned this early on, or somebody told me this early on, was as an employee, you also have to be coachable. You also have to be hungry or willing and to take opportunity when it comes as well. So I think that's a component of it. We sit up here as managers or supervisors or whatever, but as an employee, to get that opportunity, you got to be willing to learn. You got to be willing to take that opportunity and work hard too. I think there's a dynamic there that both sides have to come together.
Yeah, we're all a cog in the wheel, right?
Correct.
And if you understand where you sit, the opportunities are there. It's just a matter of time.
I'm curious if the audience has anything on this. If you want to raise your hand, jump up, yell at us. Don't be afraid to speak up.
We do have a question on the app.
Perfect. Let's do it.
So Savannah is asking, as leaders, what do you believe is the most effective strategy for communicating and disseminating important information across all levels of an organization to ensure employees are informed, engaged, and aligned?
There was a lot of words.
Technology.
Well, I'll start out, and then maybe others can add. I think you have to have a clear message. You got to make sure that it's consistent across all levels of the organization. And to me, what I found is, you got to be out there giving the message. You got to be willing to go to all the groups, whether it's day shift, night shift, whatever it may be, to make sure that you do have that consistency. Because oftentimes, right, when you try to deliver that message through others and other avenues, it's like the old telephone game, and the message can change. And so, I think to make sure that you do have that consistent message, you got to be willing to get out there and have those interactions and engagements to make sure that it is clear and that you're there to listen and you can hear what are some of the concerns, what are some of the questions, and then you got to follow up. You got to follow up and be consistent with getting that feedback.
Well, I think, to tag on to that, for what I've seen, just visiting with you and knowing who you are, it's authentic, it's genuine. It's not because you have to, it's because you want to.
Well, I'm curious, Amanda, because you were at KGHM for a while. How did you manage that, or how did that look for you and your teams?
Well, as we're having this conversation about communication today, that's focused so far on internal communication. How are we communicating within our companies? In my role today, it's also about external communication. How are we communicating to our external stakeholders, such as legislators, such as permit writers? And it all comes down to the same fundamentals of communication. It all comes down to being clear, to being authentic, to speaking your truth, and putting in the work. And with the Nevada Mining Association, we're working really hard to engage with our external stakeholders across the state of Nevada to make sure that we are communicating the importance of the work we're doing and why we're doing this work. Why the minerals that Nevada operators are producing are so important for our state, for our country, and for our world. Our regulators know a lot of this, but our legislators learn a lot when they learn about what's in an MRI machine, when they learn about what minerals are needed for defense, for national defense. So the same tools that are being used internally to be effective communicators within our operations and our vendors, they're the same tools that we're using with our external stakeholders across Nevada.
That's a great point.
I think just to follow up on another thing, that the message in the line-out room has to be the same message underground or at the face. And what I mean by that is you can't talk one thing and then your actions don't reflect that when you get down to work. And I'm talking about a leader, right? So I still see examples of that. I know Conway's out here. I saw it when I was up in Canada. The message was, you'll get fired for doing this, and as soon as they hit the station, see people doing it, and nobody stops the work, right? So even as a little kid, if you tell them, if you're sitting there smoking a cigarette, your dad's smoking a cigarette and says, I don't ever want you to smoke, what's the message, right? Similar to that. Yeah. Sorry, Grover.
No, I will say part of that culture, though, Vern, one of my first experiences underground at Cortez, the legacy that you had left when you had left Cortez was you couldn't even find an earplug in the drift, right? It was everybody was policing or taking care of like it was their house, and the culture was everybody was looking after each other. And it started with cigar smoke, smelling down the drift, and they knew you were coming, but they didn't have anything to worry about, right? Because they just lived, the whole mine was living it.
Yeah. I'm going to bounce over and actually ask you another question, Amanda, if you're okay with that. Recently, Nevada was ranked the #1 mining district globally, right? That's a huge thing to say. There's a lot of players out there. How do we remain that global leader? And then what does that look like 10 to 15, 20 years from now?
Well, thank you for bringing that up. The Fraser Institute, which is a think tank based in Canada, recently named Nevada the premier mining jurisdiction in the world. And that was out of 68 different mining jurisdictions that were analyzed. That is based on the work we've done in the past. That's not a guarantee for the future. So we must continue the good practices that we have within the state of Nevada to ensure we maintain that top ranking. We earned that ranking because of the developed workforce we have today, because of the robust permitting requirements we have, and because of the strong vendor base that exists in the state of Nevada that can support all of these operations. In order for us to maintain that in the future, one of our top concerns has to be developing the workforce of tomorrow. The students who are in high school today are the students who are going to be running our mines in 20 years. So what are we doing as an industry to ensure that we're inspiring those students and we're showing them how cool the job opportunities are in this industry? I have a degree in accounting. I am an untraditional miner, and I am a really proud miner. How many other people do we have who have those untraditional career paths that can take them to leadership roles 10, 20 years from now? And all of us have an opportunity and an obligation to make sure we're talking about the great careers that are available, and we're getting to those students early so they can see themselves with a future in our industry.
Yeah, I think, recognizing and part of the education being, it's not just in the mine, the support groups around it, right? They're huge. If you're touching the mining industry, you have the opportunity to affect how a mine site operates. And the level of pride that we should have with that number one status right now, it goes back to the miner. I mean, the guys that are at the face that are doing the work, we wouldn't be there without them.
Don,
Yeah, I would just say, I think to add on to that, there's been a lot of education, and I think, Nevada Mining Association, and hats off to Amanda. I mean, there's a lot of windshield time to make sure that you build those relationships and have those valuable engagements, going to Carson City, going to Vegas and other places to make sure that, we can educate, not only the public, but legislators as well, and future candidates that are running for different, either assembly or Senate positions, to make sure that they know that, it's not just about mining and what we can do, but educating on how it affects our national security and our everyday lives, and just make sure that those people are willing to have that conversation and be engaged, and then understand and show them all the cool things that we do at the mine sites, because there is a lot of great projects, and I mean, in my career, a lot of challenging work and a lot of great experiences, and that's been, an exciting part of being in mining.
So we mentioned workforce. The Nevada workforce specifically, we're a little bit spoiled here. We do have a lot of knowledge. We do have a lot of people that have came in. Our Northern Nevada, for sure, very grateful for what we have. How do we keep that here? Because there's a lot of projects right now that everybody's bouncing.
Everybody's vying for the same people.
Correct. How do we continue to build that, and maybe...
So I'd like to highlight one of the initiatives of the Nevada Mining Association, and that's our annual teacher workshops. And Vern's been helping us with the teacher workshops. We have developed, with the assistance of the American Geologic Institute, 6 different modules of curriculum that tie to the Nevada standards. And twice a year, we invite teachers to come to workshops so that they can learn about that curriculum, and then we take them on a tour of a mine site so they can see what it looks like firsthand. So our intention is that they become our ambassadors, and they are taking this curriculum back to their classrooms, because the number of students that can be impacted by those teachers is incredible. And we have to keep working on initiatives like that, where we get into the classrooms on a repetitive basis, and we can have the teachers helping us with that.
That would be great.
And I've started a little thing that I'm working with my education level. So I'm working with kindergarten through 4th grade kids.
4th grade's a little high.
Put together a little activity called Mining for Cupcakes. So talking to kids about, you can't even have a cupcake if it wasn't for mining. So I'm trying to start down on the ground level and get some interest. If one kid out of 10 remembers the old guy standing up in front of them talking about cupcakes. Maybe that's successful.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's an opportunity, and I'm going to pass it again to the audience to say we all have an individual, I guess, a role in that. Do you guys have any additional add-ons, maybe things that you're working on or questions that you have? Oh, he's ready.
Good morning. I was just listening to all the cultural changes you guys have been implementing with education. I was just curious, and I guess this question is for Ernie. You've been in the mining industry for over 50 years. What do you find the biggest change or the biggest difference from a miner starting 50 years ago versus a miner starting today?
What is the biggest change from a miner starting 50 years ago till now? I think I got it close, right?
I think the biggest change now is you're given a little bit more grace on time to learn the work. I mean, 50 years ago, you either hit it running or you were gone the next day, and there was nothing nice about it. So I think that's the one thing is we really are, these guys talk about the human element. I think you're really seeing that more now where you're given a little more grace period to learn the work, and as well, we can talk about it in another setting, but the mental health issues, people are starting to recognize that that's something that needs to be focused on. So I think that's one of the biggest things.
Can I jump in here?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I wasn't in this industry 50 years ago, but one of the things I'd like to call out is the number of women working in the industry today and how that number continues to grow. And that's something that I'm really passionate and really excited about. We can swear on this
Absolutely.
podcast. I love to see badass equipment operators. I just love it. And at my previous company at the Robinson Mine, I was so proud of the number of females who were the leaders on their crew and who became the supervisors and were working their way up through that organization. But they were just at the face too. I mean, they were there doing all the same work, and I'm really excited about how that's transitioning.
To follow that, I'm going to say some of the best training, advice, mentorship I ever got was from female operators. Men, let's be honest, men are knuckle draggers, right? we're a little bit hard on things. But when you have somebody in there that can kind of be that mother, kind of give you that sensitive, touch, that's a big difference. Oh, I'm sorry. Just.
My question for all leaders in the room is change, right? So it's the only constant. It's the thing that leads to maintaining. What techniques, strategies have you used to effectively communicate change to help with adaptability? And then one more question or two also jump in there. If you had to share your experiences, what was the hardest, most challenging leadership experience you've had and what resources you used or how you dealt with that?
So,
go ahead, Don. Not to put you. No, I'm kidding.
A lot of words.
So I'll start out. Yeah, change. It could be good change. It could be bad change. I think the biggest thing is you got to be able to explain the why. Why is it this change is occurring? And be genuine, right? If there's good things, bad things that come with it, how do you address them, right? How do you promote the good things that are happening with the change? If there is something that's pretty unpopular, explain the why and get the understanding and answer the questions so that, you can make sure that you address any concerns. But, you gotta explain the why. If you just come out and just say, this is what's going to happen and you let it go, everyone makes up their own story as to the why. And you got to be able to answer that for people to make sure that they understand.
Well, I think, starting with the miner in mind, change nowadays as we evolve as an industry, pulling the miners in and getting the input on how it affects their daily work, change management shouldn't be a super major issue in my opinion, because if the miners have an opportunity to look at it, vet it, and put it in place, they're going to drive it, just like, when my experiences at Cortez with following you.
You mentioned
that's the best kind of change.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, and it doesn't have to be a miner, but an end user in mind. Start with 100%. The end user in mind. And then I think you touch on it quite a bit is you don't always have to know the answer. When change is coming, it's okay to have that conversation of we don't know how this is going to go. And being transparent sometimes, you build trust. And then in build trust, you start to develop relationships. And then as a leader, you get a little bit more buy-in.
Well, I think from a leader's perspective, from what I've seen in my time in the industry is we're moving to collaboration. There's a lot more collaboration and input than just, throwing the hammer down on somebody or just saying this is how we do it, I was always told growing up as a kid, do as I say, not as I do, and I've seen the industry change in a positive way for sure on collaboration with the end user in mind.
Sure.
I was just going to touch back on what Amanda said about women in mining when you talked about what was it like 50 years ago. Woody, I would imagine you started about the same time I did. How many mines did you go to where it was unlucky? It was thought to be unlucky to have a woman underground. Yeah, so that I have no idea where that came from, but there were actually mines that if a woman went underground, the miners would walk out. Okay? Stupid, really stupid. But I guess from a change standpoint, that's one of the biggest changes now is, here's a perfect example. A woman that ran a big mine site and now is president of the Nevada Mining Association. We need a whole lot more of that. Yeah. We need a whole lot more of that.
And all kinds. Well, I'm going to continue with this, and Don, I'm going to shoot this over to you. Mining doesn't always have the greatest perception, right? People don't know and maybe understand mining. You've got a project hopefully coming online here soon. You've had to be out there to put your organization in the best light as possible. What's something the industry or even other operations can do to help with that public perception? And then how, again, with the communication, how do you communicate that effectively?
So I think how we move the public perception is, we transition from talking to demonstrating how we can build and operate responsible mines. Our approach has been, engaging early with people, communicating often, and building those relationships. So, within our team, we've done a lot of work years ahead of getting our permits, which we will have this fall and begin construction. But it's putting in that work ahead of time. And I think the key is it starts with listening, making sure that, we're not just out there telling what we can do, but we're listening to those concerns, whether it's water, wildlife, cultural resources, whatever that may be, traffic, just listening to those concerns and then making sure you can demonstrate how you're going to help minimize those impacts or make those improvements. And the key is just showing up, engaging early, and making sure that you can show a community, because it's your community, that you bring that value and that you're better off because you're there. And that's what we really try to do is just, engage early, communicate often, and show that, the community's better off because we're going to be here.
I think there's a level of pride, behind it too that we miss when we have these conversations that we all impact, right? I mean, because we have leaders in these different companies, we're all advocates for the industry, right? Everything that us as singular people do and represent ourselves in public, we have the opportunity to educate. When we go home at night, we're taking off our work boots. We have the opportunity to directly affect the next generation, which is our kids, to where it starts there. And at the level of pride that we need to have in being the number one, mining district in the world, like, we got to pat ourselves on the back, and I don't know if we reflect and do that well enough.
Sure. Amanda or Vern, would you like to add anything to that? I know you're in that space quite a bit where you're trying to alter that public perception of what we really do.
There are a lot of companies looking to come to Nevada. There's a lot of exploration work going on across the state. And when companies call us and say, what do we need to do? Who should we be talking to? The first thing we tell them is engage with your local community. You cannot start too early talking to that local community to keep them informed about your project, what you're working on, but also start that listening to see what is it that they need or want so that you all can be good partners in working together. But those external stakeholders are so important. And really, once you build that trust with people, you can work on to getting to that common goal so much more easily, but that trust does take time to build. And there are operators and there are projects across the state of Nevada that are doing a phenomenal job with this. They've engaged with their communities years and years in advance. So as those permits roll in, they already have established that trust and they can work together in partnership.
I think that's important to understand. I mean, there are a lot of businesses trying to come into the Nevada space, and we've talked to a handful of them, and it's like we've got a network of friends, right? And everybody knows who's buying from who. But you're right; it's about those extended relationships. It's about the trust and being able to support and be able to follow up with what you're doing, because these mines have to be successful.
Absolutely. How about the audience? Do we have anything the audience would like to throw at us or any comments?
I have 4 questions on the app.
Oh boy, here we go.
So we'll start with the first one. Mining starts with the rocks, the land, and the rules that govern the interaction with these facets. How can the downstream industry of mining and production help the upstream work of exploration and development? And that was asked by Mark.
There's a lot. Again, I'm gonna go ahead, guys. I don't know who wants to answer that.
You know, I think it's great because you have to, there's a lot of excitement around mining, Trump's executive orders to try to promote mining, but it really is the entire value chain. So it doesn't matter if we mine a lot of a certain mineral, if we don't have a way to process it and turn it into products for everyday use, then the mining is going to stop, or we're going to have to continue to export. So we really have to work together to understand how we fit together in that value chain and what we can do to support one another going forward.
I would say being an active advocate. I mean, just living it every day. I mean, that affects the downstream huge, because that gets people into the industry. That brings new business along into the industry for other opportunities. Everything's connected from my perspective.
And I do think to Don's point as well, you have to have all the pieces of the puzzle in order to put the puzzle together. And it starts with advocating, but then you need the actual physical assets and the people and things like that. So I would agree with both of you guys on that.
There are currently 2,000 different companies in Nevada that support the mining industry. Vendors, suppliers, consultants. And because we have that broad vendor base, that provides the materials that those exploration companies need. It's the support that those exploration companies need. And I look at Nevada, and we are the leader in critical mineral development in the country today. We are that leader. And for us to continue in that spot, we have the geology, we have the vendors, we have the permitting. And so all of us are working together, putting that puzzle together, and we have every opportunity to continue to be that leader. And that exploration segment is just one of the different elements in that value chain.
I would add, too, that it's proving that we've done things the right way enough. And we've taken care of, we're stewards of our environment. And when you can start proving that and do things the right way, you start to have more opportunity to do things the right way. So,
Yeah, I was just going to say something along those same lines, that we have to demonstrate that we're not the same industry that we were 50 years ago, that didn't care about taking care of the environment. Just up and around the Butte area, jump in, tear it up, leave a year later, and that's what you had. I think we really have to demonstrate, and again, show it by doing it, not just talking about it, that we're not that same industry as we were 50 years ago.
Well, I will say we've had an opportunity to visit the Anglo Gold site in southern Nevada and to see how they're working with the community on sustainability was amazing, because they've got the, I wouldn't say the end in mind, but they've got the future in mind of how to sustain that community. We grew up in Beatty, and it was somewhat of a boom and bust, right? And the companies nowadays, they're looking at that down the road on how do we directly impact this, 40 years from now if we potentially pull out,
Which again,
I think the Stibnite mine up in Idaho is, putting their money where their mouth is, where they're going in and cleaning up what was there before, prior to even starting producing anything. So those are the ways that we can demonstrate it, by showing that we're doing it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Let's keep going, Kimberly, if that's
Question
okay.
2.
With the increasing number of embedded contractors showing up on mine sites in Nevada, what do you see as the best way to embrace the contractor's individual culture while combining the owner's culture to give the best of both worlds? And that was asked by Ben.
I'm going to throw this out. I just actually ran into a conversation about this the other day. We say partner. We talk about partnership. But truly being a partner, what does that actually mean? You know, are you invested in us? Are we invested in you? And I think with the contracting side of the world and the operators out here, if you can truly find that middle ground where you're partners, I think to me that's where I feel.
Well, I think we all have. Each company has its own standards. When you're working with another group, it's almost like a marriage, right? You've got to put down the ego a little bit and come to the table and work together, in my opinion, because the project's not going to be successful if you've got a contracting group doing one thing to a certain set of standards and the mine's got a different set, whether it's good or bad, right? To where you got to come to the table and have it all ironed out before you even think about starting work.
Yeah, I think just like Vern said, you know, it's changed from where it used to be, and I think part of that is you know, as you go through a bidding process, it's finding that contractor that's going to be that good cultural fit with you, and that's part of flushing that out ahead of time before you even bring that contractor to your site, because you want to make sure that you're aligned on what are the expectations, what are the standards that well ahead of time, so that you know, when you're working together, you're singing to the same song, and you continue to work together on how you improve, and you get to that point where there's just people on the mine site. It's not this versus that. It's, well, we've got alignment from the beginning, and we're working together, and you keep working.
I think you
partners.
nailed it. I think you nailed at least what stuck in my mind is cultural fit. It's not always the lowest price. It's not always, you know, the most you can get out of somebody. It's how do they actually fit within your organization, or how does that contractor work with that operation? So culture fit is again, kind of leans to that human element side, but I think that's an important thing that people need to look at for sure,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
It's setting the expectation for the vision of the project, no matter what it is. And if you have the opportunity to vet 3 or 4 vendors, you're going to go with the person that aligns with that vision, because ultimately we all have to manage to that for it to be successful.
The contractor side, Vern?
I wished it was that easy.
That's true.
Because in reality, a lot of it will go with the cheapest.
Sure.
Right.
And we see it. I think one of the things, though, is you mentioned egos. We have to get over our egos and do what's best for project. Best for, whether it's the contractor's culture or the client's culture, whatever's best for project, you have to drop your egos on both sides and work towards that. And it's difficult to do. I'm not going to bullshit anybody. It's not easy.
That's fair. Kimberly, you want to keep us rolling?
What methods are being used to change the image of mining? Or can you expand it as stars of the past still seem to drive the public perception, specifically to change the image outside of the vacuum of the mining community?
I think we have an opportunity to always reflect on history, but we're painting the new miner or the future miner today, from what we're, not just from what we're doing here, but what we're doing outside, all the collaboration, all the vendors, you know. We've had an opportunity that we've asked the question multiple times on a podcast, what does a future miner look like? And it stumps some people, but other people go, looks like anybody. It can, you know, and that's the vision that we got to get out there, because we're a great industry at recognizing where we have failed or where we've got to get better. But right now, Amanda's taking us into, yes, we've learned from that, but this is what we're doing in the future, right?
Do I get to go?
Absolutely.
Okay.
In this podcast, you just got to hop in.
If you're bashful, you'll never say a damn word.
This is one of the Nevada Mining Association's primary goals, is to make sure we're talking about modern mining across the state of Nevada. And we do that through various different ways. We use social media. We have hundreds of thousands of social media engagements every single month. We have a tremendous social media following across all of the different platforms. And with the social media, we're targeting, highlighting the people of the mining industry, the important work that's being done in the industry, and the environmental stewardship. You said that taking care of the environment is something we have to do. We're already doing it, and we get to highlight that. We get to highlight great reclamation projects. We get to highlight how before companies even put a shovel in the ground, they've posted bonds of tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're really putting their money where their mouth is. So we're using social media as a platform. We're getting people to mine sites. And we're getting legislators to mine sites. We're getting journalists to mine sites. We're getting community leaders to mine sites. We're getting students to mine sites. Because once you get somebody on a mine site, their visions of the mining of yesteryear are gone. And instead, they get to see what modern mining looks like. We're also getting in front of media, whether that be TV interviews, newspaper interviews, podcasts. However we can talk to people across the state of Nevada, we're taking advantage of that opportunity to talk about modern mining.
Well, and I will say from the NVMA group, what I've seen is authenticity, right? It's not the canned speeches. It's not about the good news stories. This is what we do. We're proud. We're miners. And it's very cool to be a part of.
Well, I would challenge the industry to do that too. I mean, everybody knows there's stuff that people like to see in mining that's not so good, but what about putting out the positive stuff that you do at work? What about putting out the positive things that you have seen these operations or individuals do for these mines?
Well, I think from a marketing perspective, the mining industry is probably 100-fold from where it came back when you started, Vern, right? I mean, we're just more visible. We're making ourselves more visible to the public, which is what we need.
And we have so much to be proud of as miners and of this industry. When we're talking about recruiting people to the industry and we tell them that the average salary is $130,000 a year, and we tell them about the great benefits that are offered, people start to perk up and they have a lot more interest in these careers.
Well, outside the money, from my personal experience, I never thought the mining industry would take me to the places that I've been. And I know we've listened to plenty of stories on the podcast that starting out as a waitress and, growing into traveling across the world. It's like, man, did you ever think about that? That's all real.
And that's what I was saying. We have the opportunity to tell that story. Yeah. And even if it's us as individuals being able to tell that's impactful. And those are authentic and real. So I'm going to stick with you real quick, Amanda, too, because I am curious. We had a conversation the other day, and we were talking about basically leading and being prominent. And I wonder how Nevada can continue to lead, be prominent, in developing that next generation workforce.
So it's not by mistake that Nevada was named the premier mining jurisdiction. It's because we're doing really good work when it comes to environmental stewardship, when it comes to training employees, when it comes to developing mine sites and ensuring that our permitting process is based on science. And we have to maintain the trajectory that we're on today because we are doing so many great things in the state. But really what I want to go back to is our workforce. We need to keep working on getting in schools so that we can ensure we have the people not only at mine sites, but for our contractors, for our permit writers, and for our regulators. I have regular calls with the leaders of the Nevada State BLM office and the Humboldt-Toyabe National Forest, and they are short people too. So in order for all the cogs in the wheel to keep turning, we have to make sure we have all of those geologists, those welders, every sort of career. We have to be developing that workforce.
I think one of the things as an industry is, typically we just steal from each other. So we spent the last 30 years not building any workforce. I think one of the things that would help us is go out and target people, and I know you guys are doing it with military and mining, but go out and target people that living in Nevada fits. You go to Salt Lake or Boise or Las Vegas, a lot of those folks don't want to ride a bus for 4 hours a day just to work 12 hours a day. We need to figure it out. I don't have the answer, but we need to figure out where we target people that are used to that kind of a setting. You know, the place that doesn't have a Walmart. Okay?
Well, and Don mentioned it, that's that cultural fit still.
That's that cultural fit. Sorry.
Well, I think just there is no one answer that fixes it. We got to do multiple things, through education and, through all different levels of education so that we continue to develop. And, even, one of the cool things Great Basin College is doing right now is a hybrid, where you can be a full-time employee and still take classes to, increase your skill set so you can go on to do better things. And I think it's going to take a lot of those different types of solutions that, we continue to put together to develop the workforce. And as Amanda said, it can't just be, what are we doing just to get employees at the mines? We have to think of everything that connects.
Sure.
And how do we make sure that there are avenues to get workforce into those areas as well? Because, if we don't have permit riders, we're not going to get permits, and so you gotta make sure that every little piece that's connected, we're doing initiatives to help promote that.
I think one thing to add to this, we're talking external right now, right? Different educations, but one thing that needs to be highlighted, in my opinion, is all the training and everything that goes into the miners at site today. You can come in at 18 years old and you can progress through the industry and become the professional that you want to be, because we're doing such a great job on site.
I'll kind of wrap this up and add to that and say, try something different too. Try and fail. We've done the same thing over, and some of that has been successful, but maybe that's evolved too. And maybe there's a different angle to take at a similar approach where we can be successful in helping that next generation or getting that person from Las Vegas or somewhere to that effect. So I always like the try and fail method and figure out how to work through that. So, Kimberly. You're welcome.
But one of them was asked by Diane on hiring and retention has been a huge challenge for many mining companies. Part of the difficulty comes from people not wanting to move and live in Nevada. So how do you see the Nevada mining industry working around that in the future?
So I think as you look at rural communities throughout the state of Nevada, there have been some infrastructure needs that have needed to be developed so that you can improve the quality of life in those areas. One specific example I'll give is daycare. And if you look throughout Nevada, we now have Boys and Girls Club early learning centers in the ground ribbon cutting just happened in Eureka. We have one in Ely. We have them in Elko. We have them in Winnemucca. And it's going to take our mining industry and our communities working in public-private partnerships to help improve the infrastructure that's needed for families to move into these communities. But it can be done, and we all live in rural Nevada.
Yes.
Well, I will say from a personal experience, I moved from Reno to here, and it wasn't the first on the list, right? My wife's from South Florida, and when I told her that we were going to be moving to Elko, she kind of gave me the, are you kidding me? But I did it out of necessity because I knew the industry always took care of me as a kid. We have the opportunity right now to not look at it like that and go, these places, these smaller towns are wonderful, beautiful places to raise kids. They have opportunities that kids in big cities don't.
Well, the last thing I'll say, and just to add to that, is that you might not work at the mine site, but it might be the Boys and Girls Club, and that's how you get to support the mining industry. So whether you're a police officer or you're working at the hospital, those people out there are super important for us to be successful as an industry in the Nevada mining industry as well. So I want to highlight that, and I know we're getting ready for time-wise. I got one more question for the entire group, and I had to write this one down, but I'm going to start with you, Vern, and we'll go down the line. What is a piece of advice you received early in your career that still sticks with you today?
Get off your dead ass, get out of the lunchroom, and go to work.
Amen.
Mic drop.
How do you follow that?
I don't know, but Amanda has to now.
The piece of advice that really stuck with me is don't say no to opportunities that are unconventional. And don't be afraid to take some leaps of faith in your career.
I love it. That's awesome. Don?
And I think early on in mine is listen more than you talk.
Oh, man.
Dino, I know some.
Oh, man, I think mine was, if you haven't heard a rumor by noon, start one.
There you go. I think, Vern, you're going to end this for us. So for you guys that aren't aware, we are doing a miners poetry tomorrow from 2 until...
From 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Thank you.
Over here on the patio. So, first ever miners poetry here at the Elko Mining Expo. So, looking forward to it.
So Vern's going to end our session here with his own little poem.
So breakfast beers. The night shift is finally over, and some find it odd to start the morning with a breakfast grog. The last 7 nights were more than enough. The ground was rotten. It was really tough. But now days off and time to play, so why not have a breakfast beer to start the day?
And if you're in the industry, you felt that.
Amanda, Don, Vern,
And he brought his beer
much.
with him.
Thank you guys.
Cheers.
Salute.
Enjoy the rest of the show.
Adios.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thanks everyone.
Let's give them a round of applause, all of them. They've done a great job today. What a way to kick off the 40th annual Elko Mining Expo. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. This one's for the crews underground, for the haul truck drivers, the welders, the crushers, for the ones who make the world turn while nobody's looking. Mine and mine, let's dig in. Yeah, From the pit to the plant where the iron sparks fly, we talk grit, talk grind under that big sky. Dino and Grover got the mic turned high, breaking down stories money just can't buy. From the driller to the tech with the night shift eyes, we shine that light where the truth resides. Talk safety, talk struggle, talk pride inside, man, it's the heartbeat where the people thrive. Mine and mine, we dig a little deeper. Stories from the soul, not a corporate speaker. Human element is the real truth seeker. Every week we rise, podcast speaker. Come on in mind, we dig a little deeper. Stories from the soul, not a corporate speaker. Human element is the real truth seeker. Every week we rise, podcast speaker. Yeah, copper, gold, silver, coal, you name it. We break down the process, the blood that sustain it. Presumption flow, the culture, the cause. The ones who made it happen, never counting the loss. We the Joe Rogan of the rock and the dust. Talking tough love, respect, and trust. From the whole road climbs to the mill line hum. We bring the stories where the real ones come. Money minds, we dig a little deeper. Stories from the soul, not a corporate speaker. Human element, it's the real truth seeker. Every week we rise, podcast speaker. Money minds, we dig a little deeper. Stories from the soul, not a corporate speaker. Human element, it's the real truth seeker. Every week we rise, podcast speaker. This ain't no suit and tie talk. Nah, this the grease-stained boots on ground law. From hard times to the times they thrive. Mind and minds keep the culture alive. We salute the companies that back their crew, the ones that care and the ones that grew. From Nevada to Peru to the odds and minds, we link that world with the honest lines. Dino and Grover, yeah, they speak that truth. In a room full of miners, they the voice of proof. Plug in, tune up, and follow the signs. It's the sound of the industry. Mind and mind. Mind and mind. We dig a little deeper. Stories from the soul, not a corporate speaker. Human element is the real truth seeker. Every week we rise, podcast speaker. Mind and mind. We dig a little deeper. Stories from the soul, not a corporate speaker. Human element is the real truth seeker.